So I've recently developed an interest in polytopes in 4 and higher dimensions. I found myself in quite the mathematical rabbit hole, which has led me to develop a proposal for the mathematical community today. If you're not familiar with what a polytope is, I'd recommend checking out Numberphile's video, Perfect Shapes in Higher Dimensions, before you watch this, but know that the terms can extend to shapes that aren't just regular or uniform polytopes. Essentially, polytopes are geometric shapes that have straight edges and flat faces. Two-dimensional polytopes are called polygons. Poly meaning many, and gon meaning angle. Hopefully that's a term which many people are familiar with. To name a specific polygon, the poly prefix is replaced with a numerical prefix denoting the number of sides of the polygon. For example, a hexagon is a 6-sided polygon, and the octagon is an 8-sided polygon. Three-dimensional polytopes are called polyhedra. Poly, again, meaning many, and hedron meaning base, or as we call them, face, which hopefully this term rings a bell for you as well. The cube, or the hexahedron, is one of the 5 regular polyhedron, also known as the Platonic solids, which are each constructed from only one type of regular polygon. The hexahedron is named so for its hexa, 6, hedron, faces, just like a hexagon has 6 sides. The others include the tetrahedron here with 4 faces, octahedron with 8 faces, dodecahedron with 12 faces, and icosahedron with 20 faces. Less commonly known is the term polyquetton, coined by Norman Johnson, which is used to refer to a 4-dimensional polytope, derived again from poly, and quetton, meaning room or cell. Polyquetton is not as universal as polygon or polyhedron, but it still sees relatively wide use. Other names such as polycell or polyhedroid also see some use, but polyquetton follows the trend from 2 and 3 dimensions of ending with the suffix "on", which will continue going forward as well. Additionally, in 4 dimensions, the 6 regular polytopes, which are each constructed using only one type of regular polyhedron, have English names as well. The 5-cell, 8-cell, 16-cell, 24-cell, 600-cell, and 120-cell. From this point on, I should note that the nomenclature that follows isn't necessarily widely known or accepted throughout the global mathematical community, but sees use in several high-profile locations. Names for polytopes through at least 7 dimensions were created by George Olszewski and Jonathan Bowers by using Greek numerical prefixes, polytetron, polypenton, and polyhexon for 5, 6, and 7 dimensions respectively. Because the naming of specific polytopes based on their number of facets relies on using the same numerical prefixes, such as the hexagon, tetrahedron, and pentaquetton, some names could possibly be confusing, such as a hypothetical 5-faceted 5-dimensional polytope being known as a pentapenton. Wendy Krieger came up with a solution, the idea to use the International System of Units, or the SI prefixes, which themselves are modified versions of the Greek numerical prefixes, to avoid confusion. Therefore, the polytetron became the polyteron, as the SI prefix tera here. The polypenton became the polypeton from peta, and the polyhexon became the polyexon from exa. Both Wikipedia and the Polytope wiki employ these names for higher dimensional polytopes through 9 dimensions, including 8th dimensional polyzeta and 9th dimensional polyyotta. The online Encyclopedia of Energy Sequences Simplical Polytopic Numbers page still uses the original Greek prefixes to describe the names of simplices above 6 dimensions. The 7 simplex here is still called the octahexon rather than the octaexon or the octaecton. It's important here to note that the Greek prefixes are intentionally those of the number 1 less than the number of dimensions of the polytope, as naming conventions are related to the facets of the shape, not to the shape itself. The facets of a polytope are the elements that are 1 dimension less than that of the polytope itself. For example, polyhedra have many poly faces, hedra, and polychora have many cells. Therefore, polyptera have many 4-dimensional facets, sometimes called 4 faces or 4 cells. The decateron, for example, has 10 4 faces, or tera. Many other names are used for higher dimensional regular polytopes, specifically the infinite classes or families of polytopes which exist in every dimension: the simplex, hypercube, and orthoplex. The simplest way to describe them is to simply attach the number of dimensions of the shape to the front of its class. So the 8th dimensional simplex is simply called the 8 simplex. The 10th dimensional hypercube is the 10 cube, and the 258th dimensional orthoplex is the 258 orthoplex. Many people also recognize the word tesseract, a 4-dimensional hypercube, but the prefix tessera can be exchanged for other numerical prefixes to describe higher dimensional hypercubes. For example, the 5 cube here can also be called the pentaract. Likewise, the 6 cube can be called the hexaract, and so on. The orthoplexes can follow a similar pattern, but instead of the root act, they use the root cross. So the 7 orthoplex here is the heptacross. The 8 orthoplex could be called the octacross, and so on. There's other names that have been given to these shapes, but these seem to be the most widely used ones. Having seen some of these floating around, I stumbled across a page created here by Jonathan Bowers, who took it upon himself to expand the list of polytopes with over a tradecillion dimensions. That's 10 to the 42nd power. This man is my hero. The names through to the 16th dimensional polytopes are employed by the Polytope wiki here, such as the 11-dimensional polydacon here. Wikipedia, as well as Dr. Richard Klitzing's site, both use the term polyxenon in multiple places. Here you see polyxena, and all the way back here, and Wikipedia also uses polyxena to describe 10-dimensional polytopes. Xena being derived from enia, the prefix for the number 9, and continuing the trend of SI prefixes using the letters of the alphabet in descending order from zeta and yada before it. While Xena itself was never, and is not even today, an official metric prefix, it seems like it saw some use alongside prefixes such as Bronto, like in Brontosaurus, and Hella, as in that's a hella big number. Not even joking about that one. As prefixes to extend the system to describe large values that couldn't be described by the current SI system at the time. Mostly to describe big data, the size of thousands or millions of yottabytes. An online petition prompted Google to adopt Hella as an official scientific prefix for 10 to the 27 in 2010, and Wolfram Alpha did the same a year later in 2011. You can still convert 1,000 yottabytes to 1 hellabyte with Google's unit conversion tool today. And that brings us to November 15th to 18th, 2022. Just over 3 months ago, the General Conference on Weights and Measures held its 27th meeting in Versailles, and its third resolution was, here, on the extension of the range of SI prefixes. You may see where this is going at this point. So here I have an article by Richard J.C. Brown, fantastic article, briefly summarizing the history of the SI prefixes. It sort of serves as an addendum to this 1966 article published by J. DeBoer. And it was published here on November 24th, 2022, less than a week after the conference had finished, and on the history of the SI prefixes. Brown provides some reasoning behind the resolution, pointing out that the use of non-standardized unit names could end up being detrimental to scientific collaboration, and that there were worries that non-scientific names, such as Bronto or Hella, would be adopted de facto, and there were no official prefixes provided by the International Bureau of Weights and Measures for powers of 10 above 24. And so, this past November, 4 metric prefixes were adopted. This ronna for 10 to the 27 and quetta for 10 to the 30. To maintain symmetry, the prefixes ronto for 10 to the minus 27 and quecto for 10 to the minus 30 were adopted as well, although those prefixes have not been in high demand for sizes that small. These were chosen because the Q and R were the only letters in the English alphabet not being used by some other unit measure or prefix thus far. The terms were also derived from the Greek prefixes enia and deca, like the prefixes before, and tacking the Q and R onto the front to mutate them. Cueca, which more closely resembles deca, so you can kind of see the correlation there, wasn't chosen because it also closely resembles a vulgar slang word in Portuguese. So where our little detour here becomes important is that on December 26, 2022, an unnamed user with no other edits on Wikipedia added the 10 simplex and 10 cube pages, changing the alternate names of the hendecazenon here to the hendecaronnon and the icosazenon to the icosaronnon, sort of mirroring that ronna prefix here. On January 13th of this year, another unnamed user edited the 10 orthoplex page, naming the Kiliicosa tetraronnon, or the 10 orthoplex. This is also, as far as I can tell, the only usage of the word polyronnon on the internet thus far. If I do a quick Google search for polyronnon, there are two results here. One being the 10 orthoplex page on Wikipedia, and another one being this WikiWand page, which very clearly is just copying and pasting from Wikipedia. Polyxenon hasn't been completely wiped from Wikipedia. If I go back to the 10 simplex page, at least right now, still is called the regular hendecazenon rather than the hendecaronnon, as it is here in the body. It hasn't been sort of completely embraced or whatever. It's kind of strange how this is the only place that we've seen these names is like here on Wikipedia, which I know anyone can come and edit Wikipedia, but such a sort of high profile location, and after over a month and a half or so, the edits still haven't been undone. So at this point, I'd like to make my own proposal. I believe that 11-dimensional polytopes should hereforth be known as polyquetta, rather than Jonathan Bowers's term polydaca, to reflect the new SI prefixes that were adopted 3 months ago. If I, again, do a quick Google search of polyquetton, there are 0 search results. I'm hoping that by simply naming this video Polyquetton, I can change that and have at least one result. But as part of this, I'd also like to provide the names of the 3 regular Polyquetta. The 11 simplex here with 12 facets, or 12 10-dimensional facets, or ronna, is the dodecaquetton. The 11 cube here, or 11 hypercube, with 22 ronna, or 22 10-dimensional facets, is the icosadiquetton. And the 11 orthoplex, with 2048 facets, is the dyschilia tetraconta octaquetton, sort of forming your group of the 3 regular polyquetta here in 11 dimensions. As of now, none of these 3 have any search results to their name either, but I may try to provide my own edits to some of these websites I've mentioned before, show the world the beauty of the polyquetton here, you know. I did reach out to Bowers to ask him about his naming conventions, but I honestly didn't really give him enough time to respond before making this video, so if I do hear back from him, I'll for sure make an addendum or something with any information I've gleaned from my conversation with him, with his permission, of course. I also left messages on the talk pages of the 2 unnamed users on Wikipedia, but I'm not sure if I have much hope of hearing back from them, as all I had to go on was the IP addresses, and both talk pages were empty before I left my messages. I may make a couple posts on the talk pages for the 10 simplex, 10 cube, and 10 orthoplex pages themselves in an attempt to reach more people and figure out who actually came up with the polyronnon term. I'm not sure if this video is going to reach anyone, but I guess I made it anyway. If you made it this far, honestly, leave a comment or email me or something. You're obviously as interested in this as I am, and I'm dying to have more people to talk to about this stuff who aren't like professional mathematicians. I don't think I have near enough influence to reach someone like that. Anyway, thanks for watching.